Urbanization in developing countries. The impact of population, affluence, and technology on environment can be most clearly seen in urbanization in developing countries. Why are there so many fast-growing cities in developing countries? There are many reasons for increased urban growth in the developing world. First, surplus resources. Second, industrialization and commercialization. Third, development of transport and communication. Fourth, economic pull of the city. And fifth is the educational and recreational facilities. How do cities develop and grow? Early cities developed in a number of regions, from Mesopotamia to Asia to the Americas. Asian cities were notable for their geographical diversity as well as their diversity in form and function. How has population growth affected cities? For the first time in history, more than half of the global population live in towns and cities. By 2050, that proportion is expected to rise to 2/3. Population growth is happening fastest in urban areas of less developed regions, with the urban population estimated to grow from 3.9 billion people today to 6.3 billion in 2050. This rapid urbanization coupled with population growth is changing the landscape of human settlement, posing significant risks on living conditions, the environment, and development. The risks of rapid urbanization in developing countries. Urbanization brings important benefits for economic, cultural, and societal development. Well-managed cities are both efficient and effective, making economic activity more environmentally friendly. Further, the proximity and diversity of people can spark innovation and create employment as exchanging ideas breeds new ideas. But these concepts are threatened by some of the factors driving rapid urbanization. For example, one of the main factors is rural-urban migration, driven by the prospect of greater employment opportunities and the hope of a better life in cities. But rapidly increasing population density can create severe problems, especially if planning efforts are not sufficient to cope with the influx of new inhabitants. The result may, in extreme cases, be widespread poverty. Estimates suggest that 40% of the world's urban expansion is taking place in slums, enlarging socio-economic disparities and creating unsanitary conditions that facilitate the spread of disease. There are several challenges brought by the rapid urbanization in developing countries. Challenge number 1: infrastructure. Electric power supply and distribution, water supply and sewage. The availability and quality of infrastructure are at the core of many of the challenges faced by rapidly urbanizing cities in developing countries, while underinvestment is posing similar challenges in most developed economies. Infrastructure failure would have significant implications for property and business continuity for city authorities, as well as local and central government bodies. As cities expand rapidly, there is a risk that infrastructure will not keep pace with their growth or the increased expectations of their populations. Challenge number 2: health. When urbanization is rapid and unplanned, a combination of high population density, poverty, and lack of infrastructure can have the opposite effect, fostering conditions for communicable diseases to flourish. It is striking that today almost 700 million urban dwellers lack adequate sanitation. The problem is particularly acute in sub-Saharan Africa and South Central Asia, where 62% and 43% respectively of the urban population live in slums and are faced with unacceptable levels of risk to illnesses, worm infections, cholera, and diarrhea. Challenge number 3: climate change. Rapid, inadequate, and poorly planned expansion of cities can also leave urban populations highly exposed to the effects of climate change. The migration from rural areas to cities is at least partially driven by the increasing prevalence of extreme weather. Moreover, cities tend to be located near the sea or natural waterways, where they are at more risk of flooding. 15 of the world's 20 megacities, those with over 10 million inhabitants, are located in coastal zones threatened by sea level rise and storm surges. Making cities more resilient to extreme weather events should be a priority for both local governments and the private sector. The urban heat island (UHI) effect is attributed to the differences in heat fluxes between urban and rural areas, with urban areas typically absorbing and storing more sensible heat than rural areas. The UHI intensity increases as the population of the city increases, while UHI intensity decreases as wind speed increases. These have been confirmed by more recent studies as well. The UHI effect is interrelated to climate change. First, a warming climate will increase already higher temperatures in heat island areas. Second, mitigating and cooling strategies to reduce heat islands can help communities adapt to the effects of climate change, as well as lower the greenhouse gas emissions that cause climate change. Ultimately, urbanization creates opportunities but also brings about environmental risks. For rapid urbanization to provide opportunities to all, carefully considered urban planning and good governance with effective regulatory frameworks are required. Cities provide significant opportunities for more integrated and sustainable waste management. A comprehensive approach to managing waste is summarized by the 3 R's. Reducing the amount that you buy is the most significant of all the options to decrease consumption. The key is to only purchase goods that we need and in the right amount. The process of reusing starts with the assumption that the used materials that flow through our lives can be a resource rather than refuse. Reusing saves money, conserves resources, and satisfies the human urge to be creative. When discarding your waste, find ways to recycle it instead of letting it go to landfill. China has been trying to promote new waste sorting rules in cities for many years to encourage recycling. In March 2017, the State Council issued a plan for new legislation and a standard waste classification system, aiming to achieve a recycling rate in 46 major cities of at least 35% by 2020. A total of around 10 cities were selected as the initial program pilots.